Have you ever made a promise? Maybe you pledged to finish a chore or to be a better friend. Promises are important, aren't they? They build trust and show we care. In the Bible, promises are a big deal too. God made a promise to Abraham, a promise of a land flowing with milk and honey. This land was Canaan, a place where God's people could live in freedom and peace. But there was a catch. Canaan wasn't empty. It was filled with strong cities and even stronger warriors. It would take courage and faith to claim this promised land. This is where Joshua comes in. After Moses, the great leader, passed away, God chose Joshua to lead the Israelites into Canaan. Imagine the weight of that responsibility, to inherit a promise from Moses, a man who spoke with God face to face. Joshua was a brave warrior, but even he felt small compared to Moses. Leading the Israelites into Canaan was a giant task, like climbing a mountain that seemed to touch the sky. But God knew what Joshua needed. He spoke to Joshua in Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Can you imagine hearing those words from God himself? They must have filled Joshua with strength and purpose. God wasn't just sending Joshua into battle. He was walking alongside him every step of the way. Even with God's reassurance, Joshua knew this wouldn't be easy. Greatness, whether it's leading a nation or being a good friend, always comes with great challenges. The first hurdle on their path was Jericho, a mighty city with walls so thick they seemed impenetrable. Think about a time you faced something that seemed impossible. Maybe it was a problem at school, a fear you couldn't overcome, or a challenge that felt bigger than you. That's how Jericho must have felt to the Israelites. But instead of giving in to fear, they remembered God's promise. They chose faith over fear. And God, true to his word, had a plan. God's plan wasn't a typical battle plan. He told Joshua to have the Israelites march around the city once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, they were to march 7 times, blow their trumpets, and shout with all their might. Can you imagine that? Marching around a city, blowing trumpets? It must have seemed strange, even silly. But the Israelites trusted God's plan, even when it didn't make sense. And then, on that 7th day, as the trumpets blared and the people shouted, the impossible happened. The walls of Jericho came crashing down. Jericho, the mighty fortress, was defeated not by swords or arrows, but by obedience and faith. But there's another important story within the walls of Jericho, the story of Rahab. Rahab was a woman who lived in Jericho, and she had heard about the God of Israel. She believed in his power, and in a leap of faith, helped 2 Israelite spies who came to scout the city. In return for her help, Rahab asked for a promise from the spies. She asked for the safety of her family when Jericho fell. The spies agreed, making a promise in the name of God. When the walls of Jericho came tumbling down amidst the chaos and victory, the Israelites remembered their promise to Rahab. They brought her and her family to safety, honoring the word they had given. The story of Rahab reminds us of the importance of keeping our word, even when it's difficult. Sadly, not everyone shares this commitment to promises. Remember Pharaoh's cupbearer in the story of Joseph? Joseph, while wrongly imprisoned, interpreted the cupbearer's dream, promising him freedom. The cupbearer, relieved and overjoyed, promised to remember Joseph and plead his case to Pharaoh. But once he was free, the cupbearer quickly forgot his promise. He forgot Joseph's kindness, leaving him languishing in prison. The story of the cupbearer stands in stark contrast to the actions of the Israelites with Rahab. It serves as a reminder that human nature is fickle. We easily forget our promises when caught up in our own lives and desires. What makes us to make promises? 1. Excitements, impressed by results and outcome. Herodias' daughter's dance so impressed the audience that the father asked her to request anything, and she asked for the head of John the Baptist. Sadly, it was granted to her. In Judges 11, verse 31, anything that comes out first from my house will be a befitting sacrifice to the Lord. Was this promise fulfilled? The second is impulsiveness, trying to impress. And the third is when we are threatened and in a state of total fear. Are there ways or steps that can help us keep our promises? 1, we should always remember that we are children of God. Our yes should be yes. 2, we should understand that promises carry responsibility. Finally, when we face difficulty fulfilling, we should seek help from the Holy Spirit. Follow us in worship every Sunday on social media. Subscribe to watch or uplifting spiritual growth.